Hello and welcome, Exiles. Now, with Vaal Caustic Arrow being a thing, I think it is the little boost of power a Chaos Bow character needs to kind of edge its way back to a top tier starter. If you were familiar with leagues ago, Toxic Rain was S tier. It was really high up there, had a couple of nerfs that just took it right off the top from S to A, and it's really kind of been under the radar. But I think with Caustic Arrow, it's going to go back to S tier in terms of it has enough single target and the gearing is just so easy for it that it ends up being a really, really good league starter. Not to mention there's been a few changes, little like minute ones that actually make a significant difference for the way I want to build the character and how I want to league start it. And I'm going to give you my take on what I think is going to be a really good league starter. Basically, if I'm trying to think of an efficient league starter, I like Frozen Legion a lot. That to me sounds like a lot of fun. But if I want to be a tryhard, I think I would go this character instead. But I'm going to keep theorycrafting other characters, but let's get into why I think this character will be good. Well, first of all, they didn't give us much of a demo of Caustic Arrow besides, hey, it's an ability you shoot out, it leaves some caustic ground there. It's got to do some damage, right? From what I've gathered, they said only the Vaal Caustic Arrow or the regular Caustic Arrow will apply. It doesn't double stack on damage, but I think that's probably going to be okay because my hunch is Vaal Caustic Arrow probably does something like twice the DPS of regular Caustic Arrow or 50% more or something like that. That's my hunch. If they release the gem info and Vaal Caustic Arrow literally does like the same damage number, then what's the point? Why does it exist, right? Vaal skills generally always deal a significant amount more damage than their regular counterpart. So if this doesn't deal more damage, it'll just feel like, why does this exist? Caustic Arrow is really good at hitting the screen already. Why do we need this Vaal version? You know, sort of thing. So my hunch is this will be really good damage-wise. We'll see when we actually get the gem info. But that's the contingent piece of it makes the single target much, much better. When you get to the boss, you can just pop Vaal Caustic Arrow along with your Toxic Rain, and it just feels good. As you can see here in the demonstration, it's just a skill that shoots a line of caustic, basically ground, that does supposedly DPS, right? This is a boss fight. They're showing it kill a boss in like, I don't know, 2 seconds or whatever it is, right? The theory is, if they're showing us this, and it's a Vaal skill, it's going to follow the rule of thumb of other Vaal skills, which is they always deal a significant amount more than their regular counterparts. So, let's get into the character I am talking about today. Well, I'll show you in game real quick what we're working with. I wanted to go with Pathfinder for a few reasons. Now, to start things off, I want to say it has a really good starting tree. It gets to the powerful nodes really fast. Hunter's Gambit, Wasting, very big power spike nodes. It gets a lot of its nice early nodes right away. So that's a plus. The other plus I like about Pathfinder specifically is the first two labs are also very, very strong. The fourth lab kind of falls off a little bit. The third lab is just, it's kind of middle tier, I think. But ultimately, I think you get a pretty strong package here. Now let me try to sell you on it. And the selling point is basically permanent uptime on really good flasks that give you important things like speed, defenses, and fills in holes that would be hard to otherwise. So right out the gate with, for example, a Quicksilver, 40% movement speed. This character is looking at about, I think, 50 to 70% flask effect, something like that. I forget exactly. I think it's 20, 20, 40, 20, and then 5. So 65 plus if you get any amount of, wait, no, there's 10 here. So 75 flask effect. If you get a little bit of flask effect anywhere else, like your belt or you get an Alchemist Genius, stuff like that, you start getting closer and closer to 100% flask effect. Literally, this is a character where you're sacrificing what's about 4 ascendancy points to have a character that feels like they're wearing a Mage Blood without wearing a Mage Blood in terms of you get 4 really, really strong flasks. The downside is, you know, you're losing half your ascendancy, but that amount of power from flask is quite strong. Let me break down why I think it's even stronger than it was in the previous league. Well, there was a change to onslaught where they said, hey, we're making this a buff itself, and that means if you have flask effect and you're using a silver flask, it will actually scale with effect. So when we have a character like this using a silver flask giving us onslaught, we're not just getting 20% movement, attack, and cast speed, we're actually getting closer to 40. So this is like, for example, if I was a raider, I would get the onslaught nodes, and I'm getting the same thing here with just my one flask here. On top of the fact, I'm also getting crazy movement speed for my Quicksilver, I'm getting really good evasion from my Jade Flask, and then I'm getting basically utility, like having the ability to have an all-res suffix, which pretty much 140 all-res suffix gives you roughly close to 70 to 80 all-res, which makes gearing extremely easy. It's the scenario where, what's hard in the beginning of a league? Gearing. How can we make that easier? Well, getting a bunch of free res. There's also the scenario like, say if I wanted to get Magic Find early on, I wanted to get my loot early on. Instead of running a quartz for the feels good of phasing, I could go for a gold flask, craft on the rarity mod, and all of a sudden I have an almost permanent uptime 100 or 100% rarity buff, which means I'm going to be getting loot faster than most other people, and I'm going to be basically spiking my early currency by a lot, because everybody's just going through the early maps. Early good uniques are massive in terms of currency. There's a lot of uniques that don't really sell a lot later on, but early league with that extra 100 rarity boost, you're going to get quite a few uniques that will actually have some value early league and will sell for quite a bit. So there's flexibility and there's speed, because early league situation, you want to go fast, you want to get through those maps, and this character has a lot of movement speed, and it's just a chill mapping style of I'm running around, I'm shooting my caustic arrow, it's hitting the screen, and I'm moving on because it's going to get killed with dot anyways. It has the other advantages of classic. Your bow is really, your like 6 links really easy. You just have to get a porcupine set or an Imperial Legacy set. Altogether, those are usually generally pretty cheap, and it's just a matter of you just farm up a few chaos at a time. You buy a div card, you do that a few times in a row. All of a sudden, you have your 6 link right out of the way, and you get just a Shrieking Essence of Dread. Pop it on the bow, and all of a sudden you got a +2 bow. Maybe benchcraft chaos dot multi, maybe benchcraft attack speed. It doesn't really matter too much, but you got your early, you know, trashy, not very expensive item that's going to take you all the way through to basically red maps as you level up your gems. In the showcase I showed earlier at the beginning of this, it was basically a tier 7 map, Atoll or something like that. Nothing crazy, just to be respective of a character that, you know, is just growing through yellow maps, got about 19 level gems, and 5 link, 6 link setup because you got your cheap bow. And all of my gear here, I'm going to scroll over it. This isn't good gear. This is literally me just grabbing random pieces that have like life on it and movement speed on my boots, life, bench crafted life. Moral of the story is our character is actually like fairly easy capped on res, even though our gear is just kind of utter garbage, really is how I would describe it. But it's just for the sake of showing, hey, this is what you do with an early gearing situation, this is how you can progress it. Now, looking at the tree, I actually put a little bit of time into the tree. I didn't put as much time into the Frozen Legion because this character I think is more serious of a contender for a league start. So the showcase I was giving here was like a level 75-ish to 80-ish character on yellow maps is roughly where I'd expect the character to be. And I have leveling trees all the way from 90 to, 90 to 10. I took the time to do leveling trees. I didn't take the time to do gearing, because gearing is basically just you're going to do the div card thing. You're going to get a 6-link bow, Essence of Dread, benchcraft attack speed, benchcraft chaos multi, nothing too complicated there. And then the rest of your gear is basically just random rares, life, and resistances. Or Tainted Fusings are back on the menu. Maybe get a chest piece that is decent, like a Carcass Jack, and Vaal it for +2. And then you have a pretty strong chest piece, and you can 6-link it really easy with Tainted Fusings. Barring they don't become super rare. We'll see if that's actually the case or not. And then I did a little bit of notes here, just to go over what I said about gearing and why this is going to be what I believe is a good league starter. It's extremely easy res cap because you're getting 70 res from just your flask, 70 all res that is, which makes the rest of your gear a lot more easy. We also get basically suppress capped without any gear. From our tree we get 97 suppress. If you get one piece of gear with suppress, you cap it, or you can just spend one more point and you cap it that way too. So that's really nice. You also get the ability to run most map mods, because it's a chaos stock character. You can run reflect, you can run no regen because you can do a life flask. If you use life tap, then you don't have mana problems there. That's the all stuff you can go for. And I'm having trouble thinking of a map mod you can't run, to be honest. Reduced flash charges used should be fine because you're going to be killing monsters as you go, which generates flash too. Your flasks sustain without killing monsters, so if you have 50% reduced flash charges gained, and you start killing monsters plus your normal flash sustain, you're still going to sustain your flask, you're still going to be booking it, stuff like that. Very fast movement speed, feels good, and you get the ability to take advantage of double 6 links for a 6-link Caustic Arrow. Now with Vaal Caustic Arrow, which should help on basically, you know, when you run into a tanky rare, or you run into the boss, you get to hit them with some extra good DPS. So I think that will make basically taking this back from being what I feel is an A League Star type of character to S tier because I think it will give you that boost of damage single target that you really need. We'll see what the gem info is when they actually say, hey, this is what Vaal Caustic Arrow does damage wise. That's the big if. But ultimately, I'm going to probably end up making a choice on, do I want to League start as super efficient or do I want to League start as Frozen Legion looks fun? I'm not too sure, because this would be, in my mind, an unethically fast League starter compared to what I've done in the past. You know, I do Righteous Fire normally. I think it's pretty decent on a League start, but this to me would be much, much faster, much easier, like flow. I think it would be, at least. That's my thought on it, because I think it's I think it'd be pretty solid. I could be crazy. I truly haven't done Chaos Bow builds, Toxic Rain, Caustic Arrow. I haven't done one before. So this one, it excites me a little bit in the fact that it has that novelty of I haven't done it before. And so it would be different. There's things about it that I'm not 100% sure I need. I don't know if I need these flash charge nodes. I'm not sure if I really need the Pierce for the Caustic Arrow to feel good. There's stuff like that where I have questions in my mind. That I'm going to figure out if I end up playing this character, and you know, I'll get an optimized tree as I go, and I'll do more stuff on like guides on how to craft gear and stuff like that. But this is definitely pretty high up there on my list of builds I am very heavily considering League starting. Of course, when I do finally make my decision about what build I'm going to League start, I'm going to put even more effort into designing a gear set, designing basically a guide on, hey, this is the gear progression, this is what you should look for at this point, stuff like that. But just want to throw those thoughts out there. If this is something that's interests you, even if I don't do it, maybe it gets you excited to do it too, because I think it could be a lot of fun. And yeah, that's just what I'm excited about in terms of a character. I'll go ahead and do another map showcase real quick here. I was just running and doing Keurig maps just because I'm in standard and I don't know where the hell my other maps are, to be honest. Let's do Primordial Pool's a fun map. I like that one. It's got a cool layout. I don't know how sold I am on Arrow Nova. It seems really good in terms of like clear, because you just shoot it up and it just hits everything. It does hurt my single target a little bit. Maybe it's something I would swap out when I start trying to do harder content or whatever. But right now, as is, to just basically have phasing on, this is my play style of like, I'm not even looking at the screen. I'm not even looking at the screen and I know I'm hitting stuff. I know I'm killing things, right? But it has that level of like feels good. This might be a little bit harder of a mob because it's a 3 essence unique. Oh, also we have very good sustain because we have a life flask on this build. We don't necessarily have to run a life flask, but I think it's worth it just because of how much flask effect we have, how much life recovery flask effect stuff we have. It just ends up meaning that if we get hit, we have just a boatload of sustain just on our fingertips whenever we need it, and I think that's really, really good to have access to. Basically, some sort of sustain mechanic. It's hard to get leech on a Chaos Dot character. It's hard to get like necessarily good regen, but I think it's built in. A nice feature of Pathfinder is if you sacrifice one of your flasks and you get a life flask on there, you're just gonna have really good sustain. I don't end up pressing it too much because we have really pretty solid evasion on this character plus surprise, so for the most part, our defensive layers are decent just by default on this character, but if we get hit, we have a button we can press to instantly go back to full, basically, is what it ends up being. We'll go ahead and kill the boss real quick here. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. And I think it'll be a decent amount better if we do have Vaal Caustic Arrow being a significant increase in DPS. We'll see. I don't know. I could be crazy, but I think the Vaal Caustic Arrow, I'm hoping, maybe it's just copium, maybe it's hopium, I'm not sure. But I'm really, really hoping... What? So I just realized while I was recording that, since I made the dumb decision to install PoE on the Steam client and delete my regular Path of Exile client. I'm going to go back to regular Path of Exile client. But my Streamlabs OBS is set up to capture the old Path of Exile client, which doesn't exist anymore. So I did have the recording going for the NVIDIA like Shadow Play or whatever. So I'm going to try to overlay that on the video. So hopefully you see the correct video play out and not just a black screen. Anyways, as always, thank you Exiles for watching. Take care. Peace out.